Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. The Queen is dead and I'm supposed to care, so there. On to other news. Now, this world has lost its frickin' mind. We got people stabbing people up for no good reason. 11 people have lost their lives, including 19 who are casualties of the incident, who have survived but unfortunately will be forever scarred and traumatized by the events that have transpired. They caught the guy just 5 minutes from here. There was a police convoy. So long I hadn't seen that in many, many years, but it gave him a break from handing out speeding tickets because we all know that the population needs to be taxed even more. Inflation, property tax, income tax, sales tax isn't enough, but at least we got a bit of reprieve from those speeding tickets for a couple days. But of course, they're back on the force, they're back on the beat. So look out. The world's going mental, guys. Everybody is going to war. It's all happening. I mean, it's all happening. This is so surreal. We got Russia fighting a war in Ukraine. We got Poland preparing for war with Belarus, who is currently doing military exercises on the Polish border. We got Taiwan preparing for war. We got China preparing for war. We got Greece preparing to go to war with Turkey. We got Iran preparing to go to war with Israel. We got Yemen. We got Saudi Arabia. I mean, everybody's just going to war. The United States is at war with all these countries. It is just unreal. So I'm getting sick and tired of doing this shit. I really want to get back to them gear reviews. We had a lot of fun around here shooting videos today. I just needed a break from all this stuff. But let's just get this over with. California, 118 degree heat, blistering heat wave, record-breaking heat wave, could potentially collapse the power grid. People are dying, wildfires raging. What else is new? Swiss citizens are being told that they're going to be charged up to 3,000 Swiss francs if they dare turn their thermostats above 19 degrees this winter. Can you believe that? Now, according to the World Health Organization, you shouldn't have elderly people, children, people with chronic health conditions under 20 degrees. So you're talking about the richest country in Europe per capita in terms of net income. You're talking about the richest country not being allowed to stay warm this winter. So what do you think is going to happen to the poorest countries? Think about that. And this is the country that's the most ready for the apocalypse. And you got the police chief there talking about how, they're going to have to open the jail cells up when people start rioting. It's going to get ugly, my friends. And of course, we have Europe, who has now experienced what they're calling the warmest summer on record that has shattered records. Last year, if you recall, Europe set the record for their hottest year. This year was hotter than that. Interesting. I don't see a trend there. Apparently, some of my enlightened viewers who are privy to esoteric knowledge are telling me, hey, don't worry. We're entering an ice age. It's all good. Just, get your winter coats and get your fur and all that stuff from Fernand the Fur Guy. You'll be all right. Anyways, August was a whopping 0.8 degrees Celsius warmer than the same month in 2018. Doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, it only takes a few degrees difference to turn the whole planet into an icy ball or a drought-ridden post-apocalyptic wasteland, apparently. Europe is doing everything it can to procure oil right now to prepare for this winter of rage that's coming by stockpiling Russian oil. So they're currently, as they talk about this price cap and all this nonsense, they're talking about, essentially banning Russian oil outright because Russia's likely not going to dignify the price cap. They're importing 1 million barrels of oil a day, right? Remember, they're trying to fill them coffers up before they have to start filling coffins. Torrential rains, floods, power cuts disrupt lives in India's Silicon Valley. That's pretty common, due mostly to poor urban planning, apparently, but it's happening in Pakistan as well. Half the country's underwater. Expect massive refugee influxes very soon. Now, on the war front, what the frick is going on? You got the Israeli prime minister, president, or whatever the hell they have there, standing in front of an F-35, making threats to Iran and threatening to, if they don't stop this nuclear deal business, that they are going to attack. And if they proceed with this nuclear deal business, they are going to attack. So it's pretty much damned if you do, damned if you don't. I guess the only ones who are allowed to have secret nuclear weapons programs are the Israelis. But of course, They haven't signed that I can't say that word, non-proliferation treaty, but Iran would be a signatory in that. But I guess rules for thee and not for me. I'm still trying to understand that. I mean, I know that we're supposed to look at Iran as a cesspool of evil, just people who are intrinsically evil and just want to get a nuclear weapon so they can use it on another country, which would, of course, invite the nuclear weapons of the United States and Israel, which completely wipe them off the map. We know they're just itching to commit suicide on a national level, but something strange about this. Something doesn't add up. Anyways, the U.S. has basically said, look, nuclear deal is off the table for now. So unless one side makes a concession, it's not going to happen. And even if one side does, I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're almost destined to see that situation flare up. So I hate to say it. I really do hate to say it because it's getting scary. It really is getting scary. You know, what was once a faint beating of war drums, nuclear war drums in the distance, is getting louder and louder every week. And I almost wish I would have said nothing up until this point, because maybe my words would be more meaningful for those who have ears to hear and eyes to see. But I think we've done burned you guys out. But it's coming, man. It's coming. So we're going to watch the trolls go silent pretty darn soon. Ukraine's top general has warned. Ukraine's top general said this now. I want you to listen to these words very carefully. In a rare public comment, Ukraine's military chief warned on Wednesday of the threat of Russia using nuclear weapons in Ukraine, which would create the risk of a limited nuclear conflict with other powers. Why would he say limited? And how would he know that it was going to be limited? Okay? Now, is he just saying that in order to kind of threaten people while telling them, well, it's going to be okay because it's not going to result in a global mutually assured destruction situation, like trying to play up the fear of Russians using nukes while at the same time saying, don't worry, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's just going to be the end of the world for millions of people and not billions of people, even though a lot of people think a third of the population is going to go when the nukes start flying. Anyways, think about that word, limited. Limited. So what that would necessarily mean then, because we know there's only a handful of countries who have nuclear weapons. You have Russia, you have France, you have the United Kingdom. Okay, so what are they suggesting? That either France or the United Kingdom or the United States is going to use tactical nuclear weapons and not strategic ones? Because that's the only way you have a limited nuclear war, is if you're using tactical nukes. Once you go to the strategic level, which are the intercontinental ballistic missiles, which the United States just tested one off, even though they had postponed it many times due to the China and Russian war. That's when you go mutually assured destruction, nuclear winter style, even though some people think nuclear winter is a myth. Regardless, I digress. It's likely going to be tactical nukes. Now, whose tactical nukes is Ukraine going to fire back with? Because notice he says this would create the risk of a limited nuclear conflict. That means it's a two-way street. That just doesn't mean Russia's lobbing nukes and the Ukrainians are firing those, what are they called, SAMs, or what? I can't remember what they're called, javelin missiles, back at them. That means that the United States is going to be, or somebody is going to evoke Article 5, which is going to bring the Europeans or the United States into the war, permitting them to use tactical nukes against Russian military installments, which will, I repeat, will result in the end of the world, because that's what Vladimir Putin distinctly said on February 24th. He said that if NATO evokes Article 5 and involves himself in the war, it's the end of the world. What else is going on here? Ukraine troops paint a dire picture of Kherson fighting. So what's happening in the war right now? Ukrainians are making some ground around the Kharkov region, although we don't know exactly what's going on there because we don't know what's going on the front line for obvious OPSEC reasons. We also have Kherson, where apparently they're getting annihilated by Russian artillery. So the Ukrainians are losing heavily in Kherson, although they're making some mild progress taking this village or, this patch of land or whatever, this trench. But in Kharkov, apparently, they are pushing a little bit. So something to care about if you want. Russian Foreign Ministry is now hinting at a Europe-wide war. I still think that we are just weeks, if not days away from the Russians declaring all-out war and mobilizing for a general war in not only Ukraine, but Europe. The Russian Foreign Ministry made a remark to Russia's Sputnik's news service, and you always got to, listen to what they're saying, right? They say the security of the European continent is at risk due to EU action in Ukraine. The security of the European continent is at risk due to EU action and campaign in Ukraine. God. Ugh. I'm not meant to talk this long on camera, believe it or not. So what that means is bad news. All jokes aside, it's not good. It's not good, guys. It's looking like this situation is going to get bad. Belarus preparing for war on Poland's border. According to Charles Nainer, who apparently is a geopolitical and financial cycle expert, this is his prediction. It's very rosy. He thinks that a third of the global population will be killed in the next war cycle. The only good news, he says, is that it has been pushed back a little and will not start at the beginning of 2023, he says. We're going to continue on this pace for war, and it is going to explode in the second half of 2023. So you got a bit more time. Ukraine plans on retaking Crimea in a week or so. Actually, no. They say a year. A year. So we need to start measuring this war in terms of years and not weeks and months. Notice how they're saying a year, which means it's going to be another Vietnam situation, which is going to take at least 10 years if we can make it that long. Something's going to go down in that 10 years in Russia. And if Vlad gets wiped out or taken out, then somebody's going to be put in his place that is likely far more hawkish. Zaporizhzhia, the place with the nuclear stuff going on, is being evacuated, which is probably not a good sign. Okay, this situation gets more intense by the day. So yeah, they're evacuating the nuclear power plant and the surrounding city. They've issued a warning for everybody to get out. And I think the Ukrainians are saying, hey, come to our side. And the Russians are saying, no, evacuate to our side. So yeah, nuclear event inbound in T-minus probably a few weeks. End of the dollar. Russia, Turkey, and China have agreed on trading in rubles and yuan. So Turkey's in there like a dirty shirt. Turkey is really starting to align itself with the Russians. So you got Turkey, you got China, you got Russia, you got North Korea, you got Belarus. Who else you got? China? Yeah, anyways, you see what's happening here. The lines are being drawn in the sand. You even have Putin meeting with Xi Jinping in Uzbekistan next week. This is the first time Xi Jinping has left China since the beginning of the pandemic, and it's to meet Vladimir Putin. Do you think that they're forming a very strong alliance? Remember, it was back before the invasion began. I think Putin met with Xi Jinping like a few days before the invasion began. Putin went to Beijing. So, anyways, we know where this is going. Talked a bit about the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile launch, which was pushed back. And this is a regularly scheduled ICBM launch by the U.S. military. And every time they burn one off, they don't replace one. According to, was it Joel Skousen who told me that? That every time they do these tests, they burn a Minuteman missile. Obviously, it's not nuclear tipped. But they're still testing. They're still getting ready because they know what's coming. The United States. This one was reminiscent of the posturing that the national security team of the U.S. had prior to the Russian war. Jake Sullivan came out today and said that Beijing could try to take Ukraine, or should try to take... Oh my God. This is weird. Jake Sullivan said it's possible Beijing could try to take over Taiwan by force. Okay, now that might strike you as, okay, whatever. They've been saying that for a long time. But this is kind of what happened in the run-up to the war in Ukraine. Remember, you know, if they start dropping intelligence bombs saying that China's going to do this and that, which I don't think they have as much insight to what the Chinese are planning insofar as they were dug deep in behind Russian enemy lines. But I think they probably have some pretty good intelligence that they're just willing to share with us all of a sudden. You know, isn't that weird how just this year they're being completely transparent about all this intelligence they had all of a sudden. Now, here's the bad part. And it's a good part, I guess, if you're in Taiwan and you want to maintain your independence, but it's bad for World War III and the rest of us. It's that they're tabling this bill which could potentially allocate another $4.5 billion in military aid for Taiwan. And you know the Chinese are probably not going to like that. So they're going to put the Chinese in a situation, and this is, remember the Russian reasoning for attacking Ukraine, and I'm not saying that this is true, I'm not saying that, you know, and this is what they're saying. They say that they had no choice, they had to invade then because Ukraine was preparing a major offensive on the Donbass, so they had to go in. Now, if China feels the same way, and they feel as though Taiwan is going to start pushing into maybe certain islands around there or whatever, or just become too empowered and too dug in that it's going to be a problem for them or make it potentially impossible for the Chinese to take the place without completely destroying it, they might move in sooner. Of course, they consider it a part of their sovereign territory, and there's talks that now Jake Sullivan was saying that they could potentially even change this whole policy of strategic ambiguity, and once that's gone, I mean, it's over. It's really over. Yes, Poland is preparing to go to war with Russia in the next 3 to 8 years, they say. That it's going to likely find itself with war with Russia in the next 3 to 10 years. What else happened? Did I mention that the Queen died? Anyways, guys, take care. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.